Hello everyone. Yesterday I just got back from a short trip visiting Jagex to test out the legacy mode servers and to just sort of spread the word about it to the community. We did some live streaming, tested out some upcoming updates, and mostly just played around on the legacy servers. It was a lot of fun, met a lot of people. There were roughly 20 YouTube video makers or Twitch streamers, people with a lot of reach in the community. So it was cool to meet them, and that was a lot of fun. So anyway, this video is going to be answering a bunch of questions that people asked about legacy mode. So I made a video before I left asking for questions, and we were going to have interview time with the development team as well as Mod MMG in order to answer some of those questions. And it turned out that I didn't really need to do an interview with them because the questions were all just answered in just by playing the legacy servers and by just talking with people more casually. So anyway, here we go. It's going to be a bit of a long video because there were a lot of questions. But if you want to read through them more quickly, I've put a link in the description to the Pastebin page that has all the questions and the written out answers on there. So here we go. First off, disclaimer, this stuff is still, it's pre-beta, it's still in the alpha testing, so it is subject to change. And when the beta comes out and people give feedback, a lot of it, or some of it at least, probably will change. But first question from Christian Gibbs. How easy is it to toggle legacy mode? It's very easy. All that you have to do is go into game settings, click a checkbox, click accept, and then it switches modes. So it's very, very quick. You don't have to log out or do anything like that. The next one from Demon Schrader. How will this affect things like dual wielding and bosses that have a specific ability needed to make the fight work? Dual wielding is going to be unaffected. You're still going to be able to dual wield in Legacy, and bosses will probably be unaffected. So if you need a specific ability, then you'll need to use EOC. In general, bossing is going to be much more difficult, probably without abilities. EOC does have a major advantage in most combat, but Legacy is still going to be great for things like Slayer and certain easier bosses. Next question is one that I made up to ask the team. How will Legacy mode integrate the two systems for PvP combat? I imagine PvM being easy to integrate in most cases besides bossing, but PvP seems unlikely given the versatility and power of abilities. So that's related to the last question. Pretty much, if you're doing PvP, you want to use one of the Legacy mode only worlds that are going to be coming out, because otherwise people with abilities are just going to wreck you. Like, if they can stun you and you can't use freedom, that's it. You can't fight them pretty much. Next question from me as well, relating to the integration of PvP combat. I feel as though certain minigames were changed too drastically by the EOC and suffered as a result. While it's fine to expect new tactics to develop, much of the gameplay depended on the old style of combat. For example, Castle Wars heavily involved the Dragon Spear special and freezing with Ice Barrage. The Legacy mode allowed the return of pre-EOC style gameplay in minigames. And so pretty much everything will be a bit different with the new gear, but generally the old style of gameplay should be possible, at least on Legacy only worlds. So I mean that's pretty much how it is for all the PvP. You need to use Legacy only worlds. And things won't be exactly the same. Still, there are plenty of other updates that came out that aren't directly related to EOC, but they messed around with some minigames. So like how you can run in Castle Wars and not get stuck on barricades because the pathing system now takes them into account. That's I don't think there are any plans to change that. There are also a few other things about combat that won't be quite the same, like protection prayers. Rather than protecting 50% in PvP, like they did before EOC, now they protect 25%, but there are bonuses on your armor and your defense level that do damage reduction as well, so hopefully it should even out to about the same 50%. But even then, now you have higher level weapons, so you're going to be getting hit a lot more, so maybe that isn't going to be quite enough. We'll see. Yeah, it's a bit early to tell for a lot of things. Next one is, how will multi-way combat work? Everything outside of the wilderness will still be multi-combat as it is now, but the wilderness will return to being partially multi and partially single like it was before, which I think is really good because having everything in the wilderness multi is not pleasant. Next question is from Zach on YouTube. Will Soulsplit work as it did before EOC in the legacy mode? So in testing it out on the alpha servers, it was not terribly powerful. You couldn't just Soulsplit and not worry about any protection pairs or anything. It didn't heal a ton, it seemed. They might buff it, but probably not, since it was pretty overpowered before, to be honest. You could pretty much just Soulsplit and not worry about anything else. The next question is from Mod Mark on YouTube, not the actual Mod Mark, of course. And the question is, will barrage animations be in legacy mode? I'm assuming that's about the old barrage animations. Will Constitution be restored back to 990? Will the attack graphics be restored? Would there be worlds without EOC items like Dragors? Will there be any major improvements during the beta? Okay, lots of questions there, so let's go through them. First of all, about the old barrage animations. Animations in general probably won't be reverted back to what they were before because the graphics team pretty much doesn't want to revert to old things when they have nice new animations. But if there were enough feedback demand for them, then it's possible. Constitution will give 10 health per level with, so you go up to 990 by default, just like before. Well, 990 is different than 99, I guess, but same idea. And then high-level gear like ports, necks, and hybrid gear for minigames will give a small amount of extra health, just like pre-EOC, with the neck sets. So it's going to be somewhere around 15 to 20% extra health with that type of gear. Nothing was mentioned about worlds that used that didn't allow that only allowed pre-EOC items. So I don't think there are going to be worlds that won't allow Dragors and that kind of thing. But yeah, you will definitely have separate worlds that just allow legacy mode, so that's good at least. And then ask the question, will there be any major improvements during the beta? It's hard to say. I'm sure there could be if there's enough player feedback asking for some. But the legacy mode at the moment does seem pretty playable, even though it's just an alpha mode. 3x3 asks, what is Jagex doing about the absolute uselessness of low-tiered items in endgame content? Not much, as far as I could tell. High-level gear won't be quite so much better than low-level gear, since life points are mostly based on Constitution level now, but high-level gear is still going to be better. I'm not exactly sure about low-level gear like Dragon Claws. I assume with the specs that's going to be significantly more useful than it is currently in the live game. But in general, I don't think there's any plan for major changes to making low-tiered gear better than, or more comparable to high-tiered gear. Next question from Exa. Will DFS spec be returning? It was very important for summoning tanks. This one, it isn't guaranteed. I'm not really sure. There was some mention of possibly adding shield abilities in Legacy so that you could do things like bosses that require provoking while still in legacy mode, but that's still, they haven't implemented any of it, it's still just an idea. Link6286 asks, is it possible to implement 2012 attack animations to newer EOC models? Sorry, some of these questions might be repeats, I just went through YouTube and copied all of them, so this one again, they don't plan on adding back old animations unless there's a large demand for them. X Asmir asks, will they bring back pre-EOC RuneScape theme and tab, so when you play the game you have the same buttons on the same positions? Yes, that's a definite yes. In the Legacy Alpha that we played, it looked very similar to pre-EOC. I'm not exactly sure because I don't remember it perfectly, but it's very close. Zilizian Productions asks, can they make dual-wielding attacks count as one attack, similar to how defenders were used, but then with offhands? As in EOC, only the main hand is... Oh, no, this is still part of the question. So can you make them like the main hand is used with abilities and offhand add power to the main hand? It might be possible, but dual-wielding is really two separate weapons now, so I don't think they'll do that. I'm hoping they might combine Dragon Claws so people can protect them while PKing, and there might be exceptions, but I think in general they want to keep dual wielding. So yeah, I don't think they're going to make dual wielding attacks count as one attack. But also because then pretty much if you have a two-handed weapon, it's going to be completely identical to having dual wield weapons, except then they have to modify the accuracy for dual wield weapons so that it makes it equivalent to a two-handed weapon. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. Glaciers asks, will it be possible to have the old interface but with an ability bar for DPS? I personally hate the new interface and prefer the old one. It's possible. This was brought up by a few people during one of the feedback sessions to the development team for Legacy Mode, and people, especially skillers, seemed interested in this because they want to be able to use the action bar for skilling, but they don't want to have the full EOC interface. It isn't confirmed one way or the other. The team seemed apprehensive about messing around a lot with mixing up the interfaces. Like, they don't want to add resizable interfaces in the new interface system for the Legacy Mode because it's a lot more work, and it sort of gets rid of the old Legacy experience that people want in general. But I think adding an action bar, just an action bar, would be worthwhile, so we'll see if they add that. The Rabbit Fear asks, can they make it so monsters are aggressive above 200 combat? I believe they are making monsters more aggressive in general, and I'm not exactly sure which ones or what they're doing with that, but hopefully more monsters will be aggressive. Next question, still from the Rabbit Fear, will there be any new bosses designed for Legacy Mode, like how Virago and Kalphite King were designed for EOC? It's possible, but I don't think they're going to do it in most cases. They don't really want to be limited by the old style of combat, so in particular for high-level bosses, I wouldn't expect any Legacy-only options for that. Possibly some quest bosses will have Legacy options, but yeah, I'm not sure. And then same question, same person, will combat familiars be buffed, as right now they're extremely weak? I'm unsure about that, sorry, don't know. Jesse the Boss 99 asks, is Legacy Mode trying to fix your mistakes with EOC? It seems to be in some ways yes. Many players are still unhappy with the current combat system, so hopefully this will allow them to get back into the game more like they did before. Next question from Patrick Brio, not related to Legacy Mode at all, but this is, do you play Castle Wars every day or did you quit at 24k? And the answer to that is I still AFK Castle Wars quite regularly. Usually it's just with private chat off and just completely AFK, not paying any attention to the screen. Yeah. This name, Tadux Utali, I guess. Is it going to be an old hit defense hit combat system? Yes, except that you can dual wield, which makes it a bit more confusing because it's sort of like constant hit splats. But the system is going to be very similar to before, at least for the Legacy versus Legacy. When will we be able to test Legacy on the beta servers? I'm pretty sure it was planned to come out within a month or so. Is there going to be an action bar or special attack bar on Legacy Mode? There will be a special attack bar. There will, well, there may be an action bar or not, it's unclear, but you won't be able to use abilities in Legacy Mode because then it's not Legacy Mode. Vim M asks, claws and other weapons have been split up into 2 items. Will these items have their special attack back, and will they be merged into a single item? Currently, there are no plans to merge them. Modcrucel said the logic behind it is if you merge something like claws back, because people want to protect them in the wilderness, then why not merge Drygores and other dual-wield weapons? So I guess it makes some sense, but I still think they should merge claws, because otherwise they're not going to be that useful, because you can't protect both parts. And right now in the alpha, you need both claw parts to use the special attack. PVM Adam RS asks, will I be able to play Legacy Mode on a normal laptop? I was able to play pre-EOC, but EOC is too laggy for me. So Legacy has less complicated interfaces than EOC, but the graphics in the game are the same, so I don't think it'll be any different in terms of your lag on the live game. Will PKing exist the way it did in 2012, or is EOC pre-EOC mixed servers which will die in a year like EOC did? So PKing will have aspects with both systems, but hopefully it'll still be popular. The PvP, I don't think it'll be very good with Legacy versus EOC, but with the Legacy-only worlds, I think that'll be fine. People will just stick to those. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Does it have the same game tick system with pre-EOC where you could one-tick spec, etc., etc.? Yes, dual wielding makes it a bit odd because the offhand weapon will have its own hit splats, and so those will be a bit confusing when you're trying to time ticks. But the main hand and two-handed and all that, that's still all very clearly the same ticks as before. There's a little bug with special attack weapons in the alpha server right now. So like if you're hitting with a whip and you switch to an AGS, it makes you wait the full time for an AGS. It's not like you spec immediately, you have to wait the full tick for that spec to happen, but they're changing that back to how it was pre-EOC. Ryan Baker asks, how will monster aggression be handled? I know that they're making more monsters aggressive, but they're going to probably do that regardless of legacy mode. I think that's just for the general update. Will Slayer be a low attention skill again? Yes, definitely. How exactly will the 138 combat system be tweaked to balance combat styles? It wasn't explained exactly, but they did say that they're making mage range and melee have equal balance in the new combat level formula, which makes sense because they're more balanced now than they used to be. What quests, if any, might be available, or might be undoable in Legacy mode? A Shipwrecked guy responded with a detailed explanation in the YouTube comments, so I'm going to pretty much go off of that. So in short, most quests are doable, but they might be significantly harder because you don't get freedom and ultimate abilities, so that's going to be a major disadvantage. Brink of Extinction currently requires stunning the boss, but they may add an alternate to that for Legacy. We'll see. Peter Last asks, will they implement something that means EOC and Legacy PvP won't mix? Yep, they've got separate Legacy mode servers. Zanza Klaus asks, will life points be removed from armor? Yes, in general, except for high-level gear like ports, necks, and hybrid, which will still boost life points, but the rest won't at all. And also, even though it's high-level gear, the PvP gear, at least in the alpha servers, did not boost life points, but it did give a small strength bonus. And talking about strength bonus as well, they're removing critical hit stuff, and they're just giving strength bonus onto things that gave crit before, which I think is good. Yeah, I think that's good. Live E2 asks, how will Pures make a return as previously stated? Will it be a legitimate and viable game type for most aspects of the game and not just PvP? I think it's going to be difficult for Pures to do PVM because the protection prayers no longer protect 100% against a single attack style. Yeah, I think PVM is going to be significantly more difficult. But PvP, I think, should be possible. Removing life points from gear is going to be the most major benefit for returning Pures. And I do think Pures will do quite well now because there are more powerful weapons. And since in the Wilderness people still just sort of use low-level gear because it costs so much less, I think a Pure with like Drygors or something like that is going to be able to just completely wreck someone in like rune armor. And, well, we'll see, maybe even in Barrow's armor, because Barrow's is a lot lower tier than Drygor. And then there was some mention of also removing defense requirements from Dragonhide traps and Vambraces to make it more like pre-EOC, but that also hasn't been confirmed yet. Will Proz asks, will your stats have more impact on your combat ability instead of it being gear dominated like it is now? Removal of the life points from most gear is the most major change supporting the skills versus gear. There will also be some less obvious changes. This part isn't confirmed yet as well, but I believe right now in the alpha your protection prayers do 25% against PvP and 50% against monsters, but you also get damage reduction from your defense level and your armor. The defense level gives 0.01 damage reduction per level, which goes up, so at 99 defense, or wait, sorry, I think, no, that makes sense. So if you, or no, well, I forget what the actual percentage is per level, but I know at level 99 you get roughly 10% damage reduction against everything, and then your armor will also give damage reduction, so like if you're wearing level 70 gear, level 70 armor, you get 7% damage reduction if you're wearing a full set of it. And then I think shields give even more damage reduction on top of that. So in PvP, if you wear a full set of high level gear, or decent level gear at least, and you have a decent defense level and use protection prayers, you can get up to about the 50% reduction that it was before. And yeah, I'm not sure how your offensive levels will compare with weapons. Sorry. Edlin21 asks, will Legacy Mode be limited to certain weapons, like nothing higher than a level 80 Chaotic weapon? Will Legacy Mode have access to the coming Inventor skill or only EOC? Legacy and EOC are going to have access to exactly the same gear, so yeah, I don't see any issues with that. I expect the Inventor skill will work for both unless there are specific bonuses to certain abilities or something like that. I don't think they'd... I mean, if it's just giving you new gear, then the gear is going to work for both systems. Artbritter asks, will Sarah Brews be in demand again? And on the alpha server they healed 50 per dose, so that's equivalent to the 500 per dose in EOC, so they probably won't be all that great compared to how good they were pre-EOC. RSGLBL asks, will Steel Titan special attacks be the way they used to be before EOC, where they were actually really good? I'm unsure of that, sorry. And will next sets have their old health boost? And yes, they will. The Casual asks, will they try and balance bosses for Legacy Mode so they will be as hard as they were before the EOC, or will it be like when the EOC came out and they were a joke at the start, but then they get buffed over time? So bosses are going to be, they need to do some balancing to make them better for Legacy, but they're almost certainly going to be harder for Legacy than they will be for people using EOC abilities. Based on the EOC server, most bosses were reasonably damaging. Some still seemed pretty easy, like Kalphite, or not Kalphite, Queen Black Dragon seemed quite easy to be honest, but I actually haven't really done that much in EOC, so I don't know how it compares to that. Spraycan asks, will future bosses be designed with options for Legacy and EOC? No, they're going to be just as is, and you can use either mode, but they might be really hard or impossible without using abilities. Max Carroll asks, are there any plans to update shields or make the game more defensive like how it was before EOC? I sort of mentioned this in a previous question, but yeah, they're going to make defense level go and add damage reduction directly just with your defense level, and then armor will give damage reduction on top of that, and then shields will also give damage reduction, but I don't recall how much. And in the alpha, it was still way better to use dual wield than to use a shield, even if it was like a divine that had damage reduction. But that may change in the beta because they do want shields to be viable. Chris is on fire. How does Legacy mode plan to combat the redundancy of low defensive count, since there are updates to armor and the various ways equipment scales into endgame? Hopefully removing life points from armor will be enough to make them viable again, so you don't have high level gear that's completely just way better than low level gear. Sheep Lotion asks, are you going to be making sure that EOC remains better experience per hour? Yes, definitely. Legacy will be about the same experience as using Revolution, and efficiently using abilities will be significantly faster. Joseph asks, what's it going to look like, and do you think the change in the community will be more positive or negative outlook? It seems pretty similar to what I remember of pre-EOC. It'll be really nice for bringing back old players, and I think it'll be really good for people who don't really like the new combat system, since you'll be able to use it for most things. It's always hard to say how updates will affect the community. I mean, it could cause like a big division between Legacy and EOC players and a rift there. We already have a bit of a division between old school and live game players, so hopefully it won't divide the community too much. But hopefully it'll allow more people to do things that they want to, and that's probably good. Christian Gibbs asks, will it be possible to Soulsplit flick like pre-EOC? Yes, definitely. Will Legacy Mode be a fully automated version of Momentum in regards to combat, or is it pre-EOC combat? I'm not really sure what the difference between Momentum and the Legacy Mode is. They seem quite similar to me, to be honest, except, but yeah, I'm not really sure what the difference would be. And they may also take out Momentum because, yeah, it doesn't seem to be much different. Legacy Mode put us at a disadvantage when compared to another player using abilities. Yeah, definitely EOC beats Legacy in PvP pretty much hands down, although it's true that Legacy is able to will much more easily because there's no cooldown on your action bar since you don't have an action bar. when you switch gear. So that is one advantage of Legacy versus EOC. Ethan Shamir asks, what about bosses like Kalphite King that require you to provoke when there's a green hit and use abilities? There was a mention of adding abilities like Provoke to shields, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. In general, you're pretty much going to have to use EOC for that. Tony B asks, are they going to return armor levels to what they were pre-EOC, like Dragonhide chaps to 1 defense and bodies to 40? The Dragonhide parts were mentioned as something they were thinking about, but it's unconfirmed. I don't think most armor levels will be changed back, though, like they're not going to change rune back to 40 or that kind of thing. Joe Charlton asks, what are dual-wield weapons like in Legacy mode? Dual-wield weapons seem quite powerful. They're a pretty steady stream of damage. Are bosses like Dagonoth Kings easier or harder compared to live game? I think some people tried Dagonoth Kings during the official Jagex livestream, so you could try and take a look at that. I didn't try them myself. God Wars, though, I did try briefly, and it seemed a bit more difficult, maybe, than using EOC, but not impossible by any means. QBD seemed quite easy, although I haven't fought much in EOC, so it's hard to tell. Would you consider 2H or dual-wield weapons to offer better DPS for Slayer, bossing, etc.? I didn't have time to record experience rates, so I'm not too sure about that. Sorry. Ethan Jones asks, is hybriding possible for... is hybrid going to be possible again like it was before EOC? Yes, it is. There's no cooldown for switching gear in Legacy since there's no action bar and abilities. There is some accuracy loss for using the wrong type of armor with a different attack style, so if you mage while using melee armor, you're going to get an accuracy penalty for sure. And also you currently can't mage while using a range or melee weapon, so that's going to change it around a bit unless they change it back. So like I know people used to use like Ice Blitz and then have a whip equipped, so they'd go and Ice Blitz and attack and then run away and use Ice Blitz without switching weapons. So that might be changed, but it seems like a lot of accuracy, or all the accuracy really, is in your weapon now, so I'm not exactly sure how they'd make that work. Venom Studio asks, will Legacy mode have old moving or running animations? It's a must for Bridding, and I don't think they're going back to any of the old animations if they can help it. Lum Fails asks, will Legacy have the old weapon stances? Will armor defense levels be changed back to pre-EOC? Again, no to the old animations and stances, and I don't think they're changing armor defense requirements, except maybe the getting rid of the defense requirements from Dragonhide chaps and band braces. Torvacraft asks, will Goliath gloves be back? Will Goliath gloves be brought back to their original pre-EOC state? Unsure either way. They need to be specifically considered and balanced. I believe it was who was it? It was either Mod Dean or Mod Crisell who said that they still haven't decided on what they're going to do with them. Pink Floyd 6142, how they incorporate both Legacy and RS3 combat into one world. People will be able to use either style, which should work fine for most situations. I don't think it'll work well for PvP, but they're Legacy only worlds for that. Zilon112 asks, can you change to a Legacy only option while staking? I'm not sure if that's an option or will be an option, but they're Legacy only worlds, so people will use that for staking, no doubt. Vice Versa asks, what about experience drops? Can those return, or will it be after the monster is killed still? It's going to be the same as it is currently. You'll get experience when the monster dies. Cree DX asks, does prayer protect 100% of damage? Protection prayers protect 25% of PvP, and I believe they said it's 50% of PVM. But you also get the damage reduction from your armor and defense levels, so it should even out to about 50-50 like it was before, like if you use decent gear. So that is going to be a bit of a problem for pures, because you won't have your armor or defense, and so protection prayers will really only be around 25% for them. Kelpwood asks, so does Adrenaline Potion equal Spec Restore Potion? Yes, but I'm unsure how it'll work if you're using EOC combat. Since EOC will have access to both abilities and special attacks, it seems unfair that the Spec Restore, or the Adrenaline Potion would restore Adrenaline and special attack, but I'm not really sure. It hasn't been confirmed. IDC Just Name. Do spells cost the same amount of runes pre-EOC, or do spells cost the same as in EOC? I'm pretty sure they cost the same in EOC, but without abilities you'll actually have to be using runes, although, I mean, the reduced rune costs aren't very much, although there is that current pull in the live game to, and it seems, I think the option for making runes more useful, or something to raise rune costs, is going to be added, so that's not really having to do with Legacy, but that'll probably happen. Zoidy25 asks, are there plans for classic areas, worlds, or modes, like no dual wielding, etc.? Not that I know of, it wasn't mentioned, so probably not. Vents10 asks, is the old hit point system back, or is everything divided by 10? So the Legacy system is pretty much EOC health divided by 10, and that's it, yeah. So wow, okay, that's a lot of questions and a lot of answers, so hopefully you guys, it answered most of your questions. I probably will be doing a live stream sometime this week, so if you have any more questions, post them in the comments and I'll respond to them there, or just ask during the live stream, that might be easier. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, thumbs up and all that, or whatever, you don't have to if you don't want to, and thanks for watching.